Thank you to Azikime for your generous support on Patreon.
Then I'm left alone with the cat. I feel an odd sense of loneliness at seeing Amicus just leave like that. It's like my mother just dropped me off at preschool or something. He's the only one that's been treating me like an actual person. Mostly, at least. I hear the small sound of someone clearing their throat behind me.
Hello.
The small cat smiles at me pleasantly, his paws clasped neatly in front of himself. I say he's small, but he's really about the same height as me. It's just odd seeing another alien that's my size when I already have to look up at the wolves. Hi. I see Galaxius' left eye twitch as he raises a paw to his head.
Oh dear. This is gonna be an interesting day.
Is something wrong? More twitching.
Just my lingua. It will take a while to learn your language, but it gets better the more you speak. So if you don't mind, I'd like to know more about you. I'm very curious.
Amicus told me to act dumb, so I try to figure out how I might do that. I fix a distant look on my face. Far away. Galaxius blinks, then giggles.
Oh.
We both stand there awkwardly for a moment before he gestures at the table.
Well, why don't we have a seat? We eat their leftovers when they've finished.
The cat moves over to sit on Cato's bed, reaching out for his own small plate. I'm reminded of how hungry I am, so I quickly do the same, choosing to sit on Cassius's bed next to since Amicus's is covered in wine.
Will this food agree with your stomach?
I think so. It actually looks like some of the stuff I eat back home. I mean, it's basically olives, bread, and meat. I point to each of the dishes. Galaxius puts his paw back up to his head.
Oh my, so many words, and in full sentences, too.
I freeze. I mean, I don't really know what this food is, I'm just guessing.
Oh, I mean, it's your words. So many of them, and in complete, complex sentences.
Fuck, I'm bad at this.
I guess the wolves uplifted intelligence a lot more back then.
Oh, maybe. I wonder if I've ruined our plan already, but Galaxius doesn't seem alarmed, just curious, so I turn my attention back to the food. There isn't much left on the table. The meat was mostly cleaned off the bones by Cato. Next to it are 4 slices of bread and a bowl of olives. Galaxius starts on the poultry, working at it with his claws until it comes apart in 2 pieces with a loud tearing sound. He hands me 1/2.
You should be able to find a little meat on there.
I take it from him, trying not to show my disappointment. Then he puts 2 slices of bread on a plate and slides towards me before taking the remaining 2.
Make sure to use the cheese. The bread is a bit bland without it.
I pull a few thin strips of meat off the bone and taste it. It's good. Really, really good. And I quickly search the bones for more, but there isn't much at all.
Hungry?
I look up and see Galaxius delicately picking at his own half of bird. Yeah, I haven't eaten in a few days.
Oh, really? Why not?
The trip here was a bit rough. I guess I did eat on the ship, but it wasn't very filling.
Oh, like the protein sludge they have? Yeah, that stuff is quite terrible. I can understand why you're hungry. Well, you won't have to worry.
Why not?
We eat dinner with our masters in their rooms. Amicus always serves himself very large portions and also sneaks me my own food, since Cassius doesn't take much himself.
Galaxius slowly spreads cheese onto his bread.
He will take good care of you in that respect.
With the mention of Amicus, I start to feel a bit lonely again. Actually, something I've noticed is that the whole palace seems to be lonely. So, where is everyone? Galaxius chews thoughtfully on his bread. I try to think of a way to phrase things stupidly, then give up as I decide he already knows I'm able to form complex sentences. This palace doesn't seem to have very many people around.
Oh, well, do you expect others to be here?
Well, I guess like servants or guards or some other officials.
Most needs in the palace are covered by artificial intelligence and drones. Same goes for the palace defense. I suppose it may be different from where you're from, but the siblings learned long ago that the fewer sapients you have in a location that needs to be secure, the better. You and I are an exception.
The bread tastes like literal chalk, so I decided to spread a little bit of the cheese on it despite the smell. To my surprise, it's salty and creamy and not bad at all. The smell is hard to ignore, though. So, what is the point of having a pet, then?
Amicus didn't tell you?
Well, he did. He just mentioned status and stuff. Is there any other reason? Why do we have to do stuff for them if they have robots that can do it instead?
Status is the main reason, yes. Our duty is to be by their side during public appearances or in official meetings. Obviously, having an artificial sapient doing the same isn't impressive at all. We don't really have to do anything manual at the palace, but Cassius likes the idea of a sapient being his servant. He says it reminds him of the old days.
I see. Amicus told me that I don't have to really do anything for him except brush his fur.
Yes, Amicus is very meticulous about that.
Do you know him well?
Fairly well. I've been here for a few months now, so I have had my fair share of interactions with him, even though Cassius doesn't like it.
I see. What do you think of him?
I think that you're very lucky to have a master like Amicus.
Why's that?
Well, Amicus is very kind. Sometimes he tries to be all official and assertive, but he likes to tease me. But he comes off as more open, whether he intends to or not. This is all compared to Cassius, of course.
I think for a moment. Do you not like being Cassius's pet? There's a pause, though Galaxius continues to smile.
Cassius is very specific about how he wants to be talked to and such, and this is a great quality for a prospective emperor to have, for sure. But in casual conversation, it's much easier to talk to someone like Amicus.
I take a sip of the wine, and as far as I can tell, it's similar to the few times I've had it on Earth. He has been really nice to me. At least after the whole kidnapping thing.
He is a very nice person. He just tends to not think everything through.
Galaxius's eyes flick to the look behind me before he focuses back in my face.
Understand that normally we shouldn't speak so candidly about our masters. This is just a conversation between pets.
Oh, yeah, I understand. There's a moment of silence that goes on just long enough to be uncomfortable.
Yes, I thought you would. I have to say that you're extremely perceptive, almost on the same level as a sibling.
I wince internally as Galaxius points out my intelligence once again. Only took me 10 minutes to fail my one and only job. Galaxius smiles at me again.
Was I not supposed to know that?
Apparently, he's perceptive as well.
Don't worry. Like I said, this is between pets.
Galaxius leans in conspiratorially.
I don't just blab everything I know to my master. I'm simply his servant, not spy.
He leans back again.
Though he might wish I was. But honestly, it's really nice to be able to talk to someone other than my superiors. Amicus was the only one to treat me as an equal, but Cassius usually keeps our contact minimal.
I put the last bit of bread in my mouth, and as soon as I do, Galaxius sits up.
Come, we're finished.
Yes, Galaxius.
I watch with fascination as the dishes levitate off the table and float away through the archway they originally came from.
You want to go outside? Like I said, there's not much to do, but the gardens do require a bit of a more sapient touch to keep them presentable.
Yeah, sure. I brush crumbs off my jeans and stand up. I'm still hungry, but the amount that I've eaten has taken the edge off of it, at least. I follow Galaxius quietly through the halls, really enjoying the architecture of the palace for the first time. We enter the main hall, and Galaxius stands in the sunlight pouring into the archways.
Aren't the mornings beautiful here? It's the best time to do work in the gardens. And so we have a good 3 hours before it gets too hot.
We start walking out into the gardens when I'm suddenly struck by something odd. So, you just said that we have 3 hours?
Yes?
Well, how long is an hour here?
The same.
Oh, so we use minutes and hours and stuff? That didn't seem possible. Galaxius thinks, rubbing the spot above his left eyebrow.
Oh, well, the lingua is a complicated device. It's parental tech, so it's something that we don't really understand at all. But what we do know is that it translates language in a way that offers the best understanding possible for the host. Galaxius crouches by a pillar, examining the ivy growing around its surface. I used a measurement of time specific to the wolves and their language, and the linguist simply translated it to a measurement you'd be able to understand. Small cat chuckles. It's something I've given up on understanding myself. It's not perfect and can create really confusing situations, especially if it comes to certain words and numbers. Oh. I see Galaxius single out a small white flower growing at the base of the pillar before he plucks it out and sets it to the side. I start to wonder if I should maybe learn the language. The lingua is impressive and all, but it doesn't seem like it's very specific. Galaxius grins. Don't think too much about it. Just try to remember that it doesn't mean everything actually is the same. There are 19 hours in a day on Adastra, which I imagine is at least somewhat different compared to your own planet. Anyway, what I'm doing right now is pulling up some weeds. The drones do a good job of watering and pest control, but they often miss smaller weeds like these. I crouch at the pillar next to Galaxius, searching through the ivy for weeds to pull out at the base. So, there are 19 hours in a day here. Yes. It's a bit shorter than back home. Oh, I get that. There are 30 hours in a day where I'm from. You get used to it after a few weeks, though. I prefer it, actually. I turn my attention back to the pillar and suddenly find myself staring right at a strange, crab-like thing sticking to a stone. At first, I wonder if it's a carving of some kind, since it's so big. But as I look closer, it moves, and I realize that it's a massive living spider. The next thing I know, I'm rolling away from the pillar action movie style before popping back up on my feet. Oh my god! What is it? A spider thing! I'm standing a good 10 feet away from the pillar now, but I can still see the massive spider, its thick legs fanned out to the width of a clock. I shiver. Ugh. Oh, I see. I stare at him. How is that funny? I'm sorry, they are very startling when you first encounter them. Galaxius walks over to the spider and starts making shooing motions at it. Even from here I can see its black beady eyes. It doesn't move at all, choosing to sit motionlessly on its pillar. Adastrian arachnids and insects are disturbingly large compared to the ones on my home moon. I look around, suddenly feeling like I'm in danger, imagining giant wasps descending from the skies. Galaxius starts to look more frustrated as the spider refuses to be intimidated by its limp-wristed swipes. Nothing in the gardens is dangerous, though, and they're needed to balance the ecosystem. This creature's venom is far too mild to cause much more than an inchy bump if it bites at all. Galaxius gives another weak swipe at the spider, and it takes the opportunity to bolt up his arm so fast it becomes a blur before stopping on its face. For a moment, we both stand there in shock as it clings to him like a face hugger. Then, by Galen, get it off! He dances around and plays for a moment as I simply watch it in fascinated horror. Finally, he shakes his head hard and the spider runs down his front to scuttle across the ground and into some bushes. Galaxius heaves for breath for a moment, trembling. Despite myself, I have to laugh in amazement at what I just saw. Why are you laughing? Sorry, it's just so surprising, and you are so sure of yourself until... I chuckle again. Well, it surprised me! He shivers, rubbing his shoulders. There's honestly nothing to be afraid of when it comes to those, but it was right on me, and the way they move... He shudders again. And you just stood there and watched! I mean, what could I have done? If it had happened to me, I would have just jumped in the pond. Galaxius sighs, and I see his fur start to flatten down again. Then he also chuckles. Well, I was about to. Anyway, let's get back to work. If you see another spider, just work around it. For the next hour, we move from pillar to pillar, cleaning up the unwanted weeds. I'm way more vigilant now, checking every pillar for spiders before we start. Luckily, we didn't come across any more.
For a while, we finally sit on the bench under some trees, and Calm floats out a few platters of tiny pastries that remind me of quiches. Those are followed by glasses of cold green vegetable-tasting drinks. It's delicious. So, can I ask where you're from? Very far away, even further than your home. What brought you here? The cat sighs and pauses with a pastry halfway in his mouth. It's a bit complicated, but I was here as a sort of ambassador. I arrived just as the stretch drive depletion occurred. What was that? Galaxius shrugs. Well, for whatever reason, the Romanus stopped supplying the wolves with stretch drive power when the Emperor died. They're starbound right now, so they can't shuttle me back to my planet. We don't know how long the wolves will be without the stretch, so my people sent their own ship to retrieve everyone on Adastra, but I missed it. Missed it? Galaxius frowns, looking embarrassed again. Well, I slept in and missed the departure. Wow, really? I mean, it happens to the best of us, no? I guess. Why didn't they just wait for you? It's kind of messed up that they'd just leave. When using stretch tech, time is important. Everything runs on a specific schedule, so if you miss it, you miss it. And they're certainly not going to send another one out for one person. Wow. Didn't you have an alarm clock or someone to wake you? Trust me, it was a series of many unfortunate events that led to that happening. The main one being that even though I woke up with enough time to reach the starport, I got lost in Adastra City's terrible public transportation system. I was running from platform to platform, wolves all around me trying to touch me because they'd never seen a cat before, and I could barely read the signs because, well, my species, water comes from the eyes when we're stressed, so... Oh, you were crying. You know what that is? Yeah, my species does it too. He looks away and I can see the insides of his ears turn red. I did not know that. Anyway, I eventually decided to use my situation to continue my work and build a relationship with the Imperial family, so I became Cassius's pet. Alexius's situation doesn't sound at all different from mine, even though the reasons for us getting here were very different. When does the next ship come? Alexius shrugs. Years. At least one a decade, but sometimes more. I'm hoping within the next few years, though. I'm sorry to hear that. It's not the worst life, and the wolves treat me well enough. We do have a special relationship. With Cassius? Between us and the wolves. Unlike the other siblings, our parents originated in the same galaxy. Though our views are very different, there's a bond there. Galaxius brushes his paws together. Are you done? Yeah. Come, we're finished. And with that, the platters and glasses float away. I'm starting to get used to all this. But, William, was it? Yeah. I'm sorry, I guess we skipped introductions. You already know me as Alexius, but you can call me Alex. Oh, hello, Alex. Hello, William. So now that you're no longer pretending that you're not so sapient anymore, where are you from? Tell me about yourself. He gives me some pause. While he's been really nice to me so far, I know I can't just reveal everything to Alex, so I settle on being vague like he was. Well, I'm from far away, but less far away than you. I'm a primate. I see. Are you important among you people? No, I'm just a student. Oh. Do you know why Amicus chose you then? I think he just chose me at random. I just happened to be where the uplift occurred. Alexius blinks, then laughs. That's just like Amicus. Yeah, it is, actually. I guess that makes sense to choose a commoner if he wants to unite the abandoned children again. Yeah? I decided that shifting the conversation away from me is a good tactic for now. Yeah. Didn't he explain that to you? Maybe a little. He didn't tell me all that much. Don't take it personally. Amicus doesn't often think ahead. Right now, the wolves are in a bit of a strange situation. Again, this is between you and me,
but they've fallen behind the other siblings in terms of spread and resources. The main reason being that they don't uplift their children to similar intelligence levels as themselves.
Intelligence levels? I thought they just spread their culture. Alex frowns at me.
You don't know? I guess you were abandoned, but you should know that your intelligence, every child's intelligence, was uplifted by a sibling.
Oh, I guess we lost a bit of information.
Well, that's not the end of their problems. These children are indentured servants in a way. In exchange for having their intelligence mostly uplifted, they have to serve the Empire until the debt is repaid.
That doesn't sound good. Oh, and how long has that been going on?
Well, let's just say that they first successfully uplifted the first successfully uplifted wolf children haven't quite finished repaying their debt.
That sounds like slavery? Alex glances at me.
It does, doesn't it?
That's confusing to me. But if they all have these robots and stuff, why do they need sapiens to be their slaves?
Advanced artificial sapients are gifted by the parents. We can't build them. We're a bit spoiled here in the palace, but outside, not so much. And even then, artificial sapience isn't perfect, and likely never will be. Actual thinking machines don't exist. This is why uplifting children to the same intelligence level as a sibling is important. Good ideas can come from anywhere.
I guess your people don't do what the wolves do?
No, we uplift our children as much as we can. This practice is isolated by the wolves. They're seen by other siblings as harsh on their own children and the rights of sapience in general.
I see. I'm starting to see the wolves and even Amicus in a whole new light. As if reading my mind, Alex goes on.
But things are changing. Amicus choosing you as his pet shows that he sees you as close to an equal. But then there's Cassius.
Alex's tail swishes around on the bench between us.
He'd rather things stay the same, or even regress. That's why he's made a strong challenge against Amicus. There are many wolves who are unsure of the change Amicus suggests, and the only proposed alliance between the wolves and the Camians is only adding to it.
Camians?
They're another sibling species. The most powerful in the galaxy, in fact. But that worries a lot of people here. There hasn't been a war between siblings in over 100 years, but the last one was between the Camians and the wolves. You can imagine what sort of problems that might create, so Cassius, wanting the wolves to stay independent and in complete control of their children, is rather popular. You might wonder why I'm telling you this, but I want you to understand the empire that you're in. It'll make it easier to navigate.
I was, in fact, wondering why he was telling me all this. Does he have some other motive that he's not telling me? He's a secret rebellion leader that... wouldn't that be a fucking twist? I look over at him. Do you want Cassius to become emperor?
I like that we can discuss a lot of things, but being a sibling allows me to have more freedom than most, but that's one thing that I should probably keep silent on.
That only confuses me more, but it doesn't sound like he's on Cassius' side. Maybe Amicus and I could find an ally in him. Well, I think I'd prefer Amicus if this whole thing is to treat other sapiens equally. From what I can tell, that seems to please Alex.
Well, we'll find out soon enough after the trials.
Alex's mood suddenly brightens.
But anyway, I've really been enjoying our time together today. Like I said, it's so nice to be able to talk to someone who isn't my superior. I hope we can do this often while you're here.
Yeah, of course.
Wonderful.
Alex raises a paw to look up at the sun, or Vita.
We should keep working. It's starting to get too hot out here.
For the next several hours, we work in the garden before finally moving inside to walk around the palace a bit. He points to doors for things like the throne room and the communal bath, but we never go inside, and he tells me I should only do so when I'm with Amicus. Eventually, we move back to the dining room where Galaxius suggests we watch the screens until our master's return. He says it will better acquaint me with wolvish culture. It takes me a moment to realize that I'm watching a sort of film starring wolves similar to Amicus. They're acting out scenarios about traveling into space and finding more sapients. Sapient species they find are wolves in masks. I guess they don't really have CGI because every effect looks practical. It's long, boring, and the acting is overly exaggerated like they're in a silent film. Finally, after what seems like a good 3 hours, Alex tells me that Amicus will be returning soon and I might want to tidy up his room before he gets back. I'm relieved to cut the film short, and Alex and I part ways to go to our respective rooms. I'm surprised to see that it's already dark outside. Even with a shorter day, I guess mindlessly watching wolves overacting to other wolves in masks took up more time than I thought. On my way through the marble halls, I pause every now and then to look at the large murals on the walls depicting everything from wolves swimming to wolves swinging, wolves swimming to wolves swinging swords at other canines. In the Great Hall is the largest mural, and it depicts 5 wolves. The features are flat and lack any sort of perspective, making the muzzles look a bit askew. 2 larger wolves loom over the other 3. One is white with a feminine shape, while the other of the 2 is black, holding his paw to his chest. Around his head is a wreath. Of the 3 smaller wolves, one is clearly feminine, while the other is white. I wonder if this might be Cassius and Virginia, which would leave the remaining wolf in the middle to be Amicus. He's skinnier, and I wonder if this might be him as a child or teenager. A glowing wreath floats above his head. Ahem, someone. I jump as someone clears the throat very loudly next to me. This is the second time this has happened. Oh shit. I turn around and find myself staring at Cato, the advisor. He looks me up and down for a moment, at least I think he does. More silence. I open my mouth to respond, then remember what Amicus told me. I let my eyes unfocus and my mouth droop open a bit. Cato's ears twitch at the sound I make with his ears and his throat again.
Hello, William, was it? How are you enjoying your first day in the palace?
I wonder if I should keep droning, or if I should at least answer the question. I am technically a sapient, so I suppose it'd be okay to sort of understand. Good. The left side of Cato's scarred face twitches as he waits for more, but I don't give him anything.
Good. I trust Galaxius showed you around the palace. It's a bit of a stifling life behind these walls, but hopefully with time we will be able to take you out to the city.
I cross my eyes a little. Oh, I like it.
Yes, so, where are you from again, exactly?
There's something behind this wolf's words, something that's a little more than innocent curiosity. Big rock planet, a star. Cato waits in again, I don't say anything more.
Do you have a name for the planet?
Yeah, big rock planet. Cato massages the left side of his forehead, looking a little bit annoyed.
Big rock planet.
Water. Cato stares.
So, big rock planet with water.
I nod dumbly. Cato sighs loudly and stalks off, not even bothering to end the conversation.
Wonderful. Now I have a headache.
And with that, he disappears around the corner. I decided that I did an okay job, as Cato seems to think that I'm a massive idiot. I make my way quickly to Amicus' room, glad to not run into anyone else. There isn't much to do. Amicus' room is spotless, so after meandering around and smoothing the bed covers over, I choose to sit down on the sofa and wait. Despite the fact that I've only been up for what probably been 10 hours, I'm exhausted. Maybe I won't have any trouble adjusting to the shorter days. As I start to doze, there's a sudden clattering sound towards the door. I jump and see Amicus come in, wheeling a tray with several plates on top of it, heaping high with food. He grins at me, and I get the feeling of relief seeing him. Hello! Sorry, I suppose Alex didn't tell you that they set these outside the door at on the 15th hour. He treats you well? Yeah, he was nice. Amicus wheels the cart up to the sofa, then flops back onto it next to me, making the whole thing shake. That was a long day. Are you okay? Amicus opens one eye at me. Barely. I had to go over maths today, and my head feels as if it's going to explode. Didn't help that Balbus kept cracking me over the head with his stick when I answered wrong. Wow, that sounds harsh. Don't worry, it's nothing compared to the one you gave me. Amicus smirks, and I can't help but smile at his teasing. He seemed to have become more comfortable around me with how relaxed he is. I am sorry about that. Don't be, and stop apologizing for it. Now let's wash and eat. My stomach's felt hollow since breakfast. We both go to the restroom to rinse our paws/hands in the sink before heaping our plates with food. It's more of the same with bread and meat and olives. There's also a good amount of other vegetables and fruit that I have a hard time identifying. Amicus shows me how to combine the fruit and cheese on the bread, and I find myself starting to really like this smelly spread, as long as I ignore the smell. Compared to breakfast, Amicus really wolfs down a lot of food. He probably ends up eating about 3 times as much as me. All the while, he tells me about his scary instructor and how he punishes him way more than Cassius. Well, does he usually get the answers right? Well, yeah, but he should help me understand rather than smack my ears. That doesn't help anything unless he has the information in his stick and is bashing it into my brain somehow. Don't worry, I hate math too. Well, I'm better in other things, like literature and history. Cassius is hopeless at remembering battles. Amicus flexes his biceps. And he can forget about wrestling. He could never beat me in a fight. Yeah, I wouldn't think so. So yes, he can have all the math's all he wants. The trials don't involve that anyway. What are these trials you guys keep talking about? Amicus takes a big gulp of wine, gasping when he finally pulls the goblet away from his face. What Cato is considering using to decide the next emperor. Essentially 3 trials. Music and dance, rhetoric, and finally, combat. And whoever wins those becomes emperor? Well, whoever wins 2 out of 3. Combat is last, so if one of us wins the first 2, it won't come to that. I'm really just hoping that Cato chooses me in the next few days now that he's seen you. But if the trials do happen, you have nothing to worry about. Amicus grins at me confidently. I don't. I'm better than Cassius in at least 2 of those things, perhaps even in music and dance. You know, I'd believe you, but one thing I know about you is how, overly confident you are when it comes to certain things. Why do you say that? Our entire experience on the ship, maybe? That's different. I was doing something I didn't really understand. I understand my studies, aside from maths. Amicus leans back finally, one paw on his stomach. Anyway, how was your day? Did Alex show you around? Amicus starts to grab the remaining food to set aside on his own plate. Yeah, I realize that there isn't much to do. Yeah, it was a bit of a bad day. I have tomorrow off from studies, though, so we can do something entertaining. Like what? Oh, I don't know. Go swimming, go to the baths, talk, you name it. Maybe eventually we can go to the city, too. The city outside? Well, everything's outside. I mean the one that I can see across the lake. Yes, that one. Adastra City, the capital of our empire. Oh, isn't it kind of small for that? I mean, it looks really nice, but it just kind of looks like an average-sized city. Amicus frowns. I think it's quite large. How big are the cities on Earth? I shrug. I don't know, pretty big. Millions of people. Amicus raises an eyebrow. Millions? Yeah. I wonder if the lingua is translating everything correctly. Aye, how big is Adastra?
The city? Just over 5 million. The wolf population is 80 million. Oh. How many humans are there? Like 7 billion? Amicus jokes. What? Is that a lot? That's preposterous! Do you not have population control measures put in place? Well, not most places. Amicus shakes his head. Well, you are parentless, so I guess it makes sense that your species might be so misguided. Amicus seems to try very hard to choose the last word, even though he's still being very condescending. He seems to notice my annoyance, though. Well, is your species doing well? Is your planet able to sustain such a population? Sort of. I guess there are problems. Amicus strokes his chin. Well, I suppose when I become emperor, I could ask the parent about your species. The whole thing is a real mystery. But it's clear that we have overlooked your people somehow. He smiles at me. Maybe we can even bring you into our fold again. Whoa, hang on a second. Images of Roman spaceships descending from the heavens to enslave the human race, all because of me, flash through my mind. You know, Alex told me about what you do to other sapients. Doesn't sound like something humans would want to be a part of. What did he tell you? The whole enslavement thing? Enslavement? What you do to your children. Well, that's a harsh word for it. No, it's the right word. Humans have done the whole indentured servant thing back on Earth, and it never turned out well for the servant. Amicus' ears go down a bit. And as misguided as humans might be, we've at least abolished slavery. I notice Amicus' ears turning red. Maybe he never expected to be lectured on ethics by a human. Well, I do mean to change things a bit when I become emperor. A bit? I mean, things can't be changed all at once. It has to be gradual. Amicus flips his tail in annoyance at me. Listen, I agree with you. We've been trying to change the way we've treated our children for generations. My grandfather and father both worked towards this. Well, while that's messed up and definitely wrong, I think the intelligence thing might be even worse. What intelligence thing? The grimace on Amicus' face tells me he might already know the answer. The way you stunted intelligence in the children you uplifted? Amicus is silent for a moment. I can tell that all of this is making him very uncomfortable. I have to ask myself again how I got to this point, sitting on a sofa debating ethics with a prospective Emperor Wolf. He finally folds his arms and huffs. Again, I agree with you on all of this. I don't like the way we've treated our children. In the end, I truly feel that becoming a more compassionate and united empire will lead to a better outcome for everyone. It's going to take small steps, but understand that is something I mean to fix. And stop saying you like I did it. I was born into this. I've come to realize how much of an open book Amicus is as a person, so I don't doubt his words. Well, as long as Cassius doesn't become emperor. Amicus snorts. Not a chance. That guarantees it's gonna fucking happen. Well, if he does, it sounds like he's gonna reverse all of that. And I'm saying there's no chance of it. Wait, how much has Alex been telling you? It was a short conversation. I asked him about the Empire. I didn't, but I don't want to get Alex in trouble in case he wasn't supposed to tell me. Cassius seems like a terrible person, by the way. And I'm not just talking about his personality. He wants to keep people enslaved. It's complicated. He's just very traditional. But again, there's no chance. I sigh at the wolf's overconfidence, but he does know his brother far better than I do. Well, I'm at least glad that I'm behind the right wolf in getting myself home. The right wolf. Yeah, can't imagine being under your brother. Amicus glances at the plate he's been building with food. Speaking of, I'm going to bring this to Alex in the garden. Did you want to accompany me? I run a hand through my hair, feeling the griminess of 2 days with no shower. Actually, can I use the shower while you're gone? I feel kind of gross.
Oh, yeah, sure. Just step in and it starts up. There's a screen on the wall that controls the temperature. There's a color spectrum, and you can drag your finger across. I'll figure it out. Ah, right. Well, I should be back by the time you're finished. And with that, Amicus balances his plate of food on his paws as he strides out of the room, leaving me to go to the bathroom. I quickly use the toilet again, suddenly glad that I don't have to use a public toilet like the ones I'd seen in drawings of in my Roman history books. The shower is easy enough to understand, and the water is immediately warm and pleasant, so I don't have to bother with the temperature. There are several glass bottles of soap, so I choose the one that smells the best and give myself a quick wash. When I'm done, I grab a towel off the wall and dry myself before wrapping it around my waist. I think about putting my clothes back on, but the idea of stepping back into the underwear has me hesitating. Instead, I open the door and I'm greeted with the sight of Amicus sitting on the edge of the bed, looking off to the side, upon his lap holding a brush. His head snaps in my direction before he immediately averts his eyes. Sorry, I didn't mean to see. I thought you'd be dressed. Hey, it's fine. I got a towel on. Slowly, Amicus turns his gaze back to me, eyes drifting down my torso before immediately snapping back up again. Oh, I thought you hated any sort of nudity. Not really, just the genitals. Even then, I don't hate it. It's just more private. Amicus seems to be staring at me, and I feel a little self-conscious. Is everything okay? Amicus looks away again. Sorry, I'm just not used to seeing you like that. I've only seen humans with clothing, so I just sort of imagined that you'd always be that way. Well, my clothes are dirty, so I was going to ask you about maybe getting some clean ones, at least until you can get me that tailor. Oh, of course. Come, send some robes from storage. Children's robes, please. Yes, Amicus. Thanks. Of course. I stand there awkwardly for another few seconds until Amicus seems to snap back to reality again. He holds up the brush. Anyway, I thought you'd like to be groomed too. I feel it's only fair after what you did for me. Oh, well, it's only on my head. All the easier for me, then. Amicus grins. Well, alright. I walk over to the bed and sit with my back to the wolf. Amicus adjusts his seating to face me more directly, then starts to run the brush gently through my hair. We sit in silence for a bit, and I start to enjoy the feeling of the brushing, especially the way the firm bristles run across my scalp, giving me shivers and down my neck. Sorry for talking so much earlier. I'm not used to being able to talk to someone. The palace is a bit lonely, so having a friendly conversation with someone other than calm is a bit of a novelty. Amicus chuckles. That was probably why I was having so much trouble focusing on my studies today. I was so excited to come back home and speak with you. Hearing that makes me feel a little bad for the wolf. I suppose being the prospective emperor doesn't allow you to have many friends. Being in such an empty palace is definitely lonely. I guess this is why Alex told me basically the same thing. Fine. I didn't mean to be too harsh earlier. I know it's not your fault. No, I think we're on the same page on that one. All the more reason to unite against Cassius, eh? Oh! As if he'd forgotten something, Amicus's other paw comes around my side of his palm, and I see 2 purple grapes. I managed to snatch a few of those off of Alexius's earring. He wasn't too happy about that. Want one? Seriously? I take one, more out of being nice to Amicus than anything. When I bite into it, I can't help but notice how juicy and sweet it is. Amicus talks to me with a grape in his mouth. I don't know why, but this grape earring always tastes the best. Wait, if you don't mind, I invited Alex to our outing tomorrow. Cassius is going to be away to do some speeches and is leaving Alex behind for once. Of course not. We can get along really well. I lean my head back, allowing the wolf to continue brushing. Your fur, hair, you call it. It's not like a wolf's fur, but it's rather nice. I smile. Thank you, Amicus. If you'd like, I can do this for you every day. I feel that's fair. I have to admit, I really like this, so I accept. Yeah, sure. Feels really nice. Here's some thumping sounds, and I imagine it's Amicus's tail wagging against the bed. So, washing you, brushing you, making you smell nice, and are all my duties? Well, that and accompanying me to important meetings and public outings,
But all you do during those is stand there and look civilized.
Yeah, that's what you all keep telling me. This all seems pretty easy.
Though, there is one thing you can do for me before I go to bed.
What?
Well, a full-body massage.
Look over my shoulder at him.
Oh, he could just stick with the other duties.
I laugh and Amicus's ears come back up. He continues to brush for a little while longer before he finally sets it aside.
There, looks much better now.
I gently rub a hand over my hair. I have to agree, it feels softer than it's ever felt before.
And anyway, William, I am looking forward to these months ahead with you, even though we started off a bit poorly.
I look back at the wolf, at his earnest but tentative smile. He's definitely a man of contradictions, rash half the time, but considerate most of the time. I'm not sure what to make of him. But at this point, I feel like I can at least trust him, and that's saying a lot after what he put me through. I smile back. Yeah, me too. Thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I have been the trained and professional. Speaking for the voice of my say until next time, fare thee well. Bye, everyone!